Do 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 do. Do, do, do. Oh no. People on the internet were right. Never buy a used German car, they said. Damn you, ghosts of German cars past. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive. My name is Kurt, and to no one's surprise, my Porsche has failed me. This is not the first time a German car has let me down. I'm getting a coolant fault light, and it's not a check engine light. The car runs completely fine. The coolant temps are fine. The problem with it being a coolant fault light and not just a generic check engine light is that you need the proprietary Porsche software to be able to look up what the real problem is with this car. And of course, I don't have that. So we're gonna have to take it to the dealer. As much as I would like to fix this myself, I'm gonna take it there to at least get it diagnosed. And then maybe we could fix it ourselves. But I did find out some good news for once. This car is actually still under a CPO warranty, a certified pre-owned warranty. I purchased this thing used and didn't even realize that it was still under that. So got pretty lucky there. Before we take this thing into the dealer, I'm gonna show you what I've done to try and troubleshoot this so far, just on things I've read on the internet.
I'm certain you won't be surprised to find out that the Porsche GT4 has a very complicated vacuum system. It's actually the same system that's in the 991 Carrera cars, being that this engine is derived from those cars. There are 7 to 10, depending on the features that you have, of these changeover valves that have various uses, as you can see here, from air cleaner flaps to acoustic simulators, heater shutoff valves, exhaust flaps for your sport exhaust. So these perform different functions, and being that they're all tied together, the problem is that if one of them goes bad, you might get a fault for something that's relatively unrelated. So right now I'm getting a coolant system fault, and you might think that it could be the engine coolant shutoff valve, but it's also possible that it could just be the valve for the exhaust flaps or the Porsche Sport exhaust, being that these are all tied together. So it's a bit of a strange design, and of course, being that they're Porsche, they're in some somewhat pretty inaccessible places in order to service them or to replace them. One of the things that I did to try and determine, since there are so many of these, which one is the problem, is I did some Googling, and a gentleman on YouTube was very helpful and posted a video about how his Porsche Sport exhaust changeover valve was not working and what he did to troubleshoot that. Basically, it involved with him just having either someone look at the valves on the back of the car or use a camera. And when you turn the car on, it should open the valves and then close them with the vacuum system. And then also you can just press the button and see if it's opening and closing the valves in the back. Now, obviously, if it's not opening and closing them appropriately, then you can pretty much assume that your changeover valve for the Porsche Sport exhaust system is broken. Now, I did that to my car, and the Sport exhaust or the flaps seem to be working just fine. So I'm assuming it's not that, but who knows? That's why we're taking it to the dealer. One other thing I noticed when I was rooting around looking for any loose vacuum lines was that it appeared the boot on my axle was actually leaking. I noticed some axle grease was kind of flung around, and this car has already had the transmission replaced because of the known bad synchros with the earlier versions of these transmissions. So I'm also going to have them look at that axle as well. I took the car up to Porsche of Woodland Hills. They were nice enough to give me a Taycan as a loaner, which was good fun. I also made a video about that car, so go check it out if you're curious. They had the car for 2 days since they had to special order a part for the axle, but it wasn't long before I had the car back with an explanation of what went wrong.
Well, I have the damage report here. It's nice that they give you this detailed printout of everything that happened. It would have cost me $1,900 if I didn't have the warranty, so I'm super lucky there. But what's nice is the dealership let me talk to the tech directly, so I didn't have to work through like the service advisor to kind of get the juicy scoop on what the deal is. So first of all, he said that it is very common for these changeover valves to go bad. This engine is also on the 911, and he's replaced a lot on that car, a lot on the GT4s as well. So basically, he said there are a bunch of these changeover valves, and they're all kind of like tied together. So sometimes it can be hard to diagnose them. He couldn't really give me a good reason for why he chose to replace the sport exhaust one, but he did say that it is an intermittent problem, and even though the sport exhaust was still working for me and the valves were still opening, that, you know, it could just randomly have a fault and not work and issue the fault code and then start working again. The fault code is going to persist. You have to clear the fault code. So it was interesting to get those details. And then the other thing, I had told you guys that there was some axle grease flung all over. And he mentioned that the clamp on the CV boot was loose, so he replaced one of those. And that's also why it took a little longer to get the car back, because they had to order that special. $1,900 I don't have to pay, which is really nice. And they did a full inspection, said the car is perfect otherwise. So, you know, once again, want you guys to keep this in mind if you have one of these cars. I thought I had the troubleshooting down on this, and I thought for sure it was a more complicated changeover valve. There's a bunch of them in the engine bay that are a lot harder to replace, so fortunately this one was easy to replace. But it's time to take this thing for a spin and see if there are no coolant fault lights, and hopefully it still works. Driven about 20 miles now and no coolant fault light, which is really nice. It's nice to not have any fault lights on your car. And it's funny driving this car after hopping directly out of the Taycan. You guys have hopefully seen my Taycan review video. That car is wild, and these two cars couldn't be much more different. I mean, they still feel similar because they're both Porsches and they both have Porsche qualities about them, but this thing is loud. It's so much more road noise. Of course, it's super raw with the like exhaust noise and everything. So it's just funny getting back in this car after driving the Taycan for a few days, and this car feels so much smaller, which I absolutely love. The Taycan is too big. If there's one thing I could change about the car, I wish it was a little bit smaller. But I think we've got this nipped in the butt. Hopefully, I'm super fortunate that I somehow managed to already have a warranty on the car that I didn't even know about. And I'll let you guys know if anything changes, but I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope this helps some of you out in the future. If you have a 991 or a 981, these changeover valves seem to be a common problem. So even though my exhaust was still working, apparently it's an intermittent thing, and it could still be your exhaust changeover valve that's a problem and not something else. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Eat, Sleep, Drive TV on Instagram. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.